The cleaning cart squeaked as Rachel pushed it down the sterile white corridor. She hummed quietly while wiping down the glass panels that separated the medical wing from the observation deck. Through those panels, she could see rows of sophisticated equipment that cost more than her entire home planet's annual budget. Rachel worked the night shift at Horizon's Edge, a medical station that floated in the space between two suns. Rich families from across the galaxy came here when regular hospitals gave up hope. She took this job 8 months ago because it paid 3 times what she could earn on Earth. Every credit went straight home to her daughter. Tonight felt different, though. The usually quiet medical wing buzzed with activity. Doctors from species she had never seen before crowded around one particular room. Their voices mixed together in a dozen different languages, all sounding equally frustrated. Rachel slowed her cart near the commotion. A 4-armed doctor with skin like blue crystal stood outside the room, talking to 2 tall figures whose bodies glowed faintly in the dim light. The glowing ones were Raelith people. Rachel had cleaned their quarters before. They were usually bright as lamps, but these 2 looked dim and sad. "We have tried everything," the crystal doctor said. His name tag read Dr. Halvik. Quantum repair, genetic reconstruction, temporal reversal therapy. Nothing stops the cascade. The Raelith woman covered her face. Her husband put an arm around her, but his glow flickered weakly. "Our daughter is dying, and the greatest medical minds in the galaxy cannot help her." "I am sorry," Dr. Halvik said, and he actually sounded sorry. "Cascade failure syndrome has no cure. We can make her comfortable, but she has perhaps 3 weeks remaining." Rachel's hands tightened on her cleaning cloth. 3 weeks. A child had 3 weeks to live, and nobody could help. She thought about her own daughter back on Earth, healthy and strong now, but there was a time when doctors had said similar things. Different illness, but the same hopeless words. She finished cleaning that section and moved on, but her mind stayed in that hallway. During her break, she sat in the small staff room and pulled up information on her datapad. Cascade failure syndrome. Extremely rare. The body cells forget how to repair themselves and start breaking down instead. Every treatment made it worse somehow. The harder doctors tried to fix it, the faster the patients declined. Rachel read case after case. Every single patient was a child. Every single one had died, despite the best care available. But something about the reports bothered her. They talked about cellular degradation and genetic markers, but nobody mentioned the children themselves. No notes about whether they were scared, or lonely, or needed their parents. The next night, Rachel took a different route with her cleaning cart. She made sure to pass by that medical room during her rounds. Through the transparent wall, she saw a small figure lying in a suspended medical pod. The child looked about 7 years old in human terms. Her skin, which should have glowed bright gold according to her species, barely gave off any light at all. Tubes and sensors covered her small body. The room was empty except for the child and the machines. No parents. No doctors. Just a little girl alone with equipment that beeped and hummed. Rachel stopped cleaning and just watched for a moment. The child's eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. She looked so small in that big medical pod, surrounded by technology that was supposed to save her, but could not. Something broke in Rachel's chest. She set down her cleaning supplies and walked to the door panel. It was locked, of course. Medical wings always were. But the observation window let her get close to the glass. She pressed her hand against it and spoke softly, even though she knew the child probably could not hear through the sealed room. "Hey there, sweetie. I'm Rachel. I work here cleaning things, which I know isn't very exciting, but it keeps me busy." The child did not move. Maybe she was asleep with her eyes open. Maybe she could not hear anything at all. But Rachel kept talking anyway. "I have a daughter back home. Her name is Amy. She got really sick when she was little, about your age, actually. The doctors said there wasn't much they could do, but she got better anyway. You know why? Because I sat with her every single day and told her stories and held her hand, and I think that helped more than any medicine." Rachel talked for 10 minutes before a security guard found her. The guard was nice about it, just reminded her that staff were not supposed to interact with patients. Rachel nodded and went back to her cart. But the next night, she came back to that window. And the night after that, On the fourth night, something changed. As Rachel pressed her hand to the glass and started talking about her day, the child's head turned slightly. Just a fraction of movement, but enough. The girl was listening. Rachel's heart jumped. She smiled and kept talking, telling a story about the time Amy tried to bake cookies and accidentally used salt instead of sugar. It was a funny story, one that always made Amy laugh. The child's lips moved. Not quite a smile, but close. And for just a second, her dim glow brightened the tiniest amount. Dr. Halvik appeared in the corridor with two other physicians. They were reviewing charts and talking in serious voices. Rachel quickly grabbed her cleaning cart and moved away, but not before she saw Dr. Halvik glance at the monitors outside the child's room. His crystal eyes narrowed in confusion. Rachel pushed her cart around the corner, her pulse racing. She had seen that look before. It was the look doctors got when something happened that was not supposed to happen. The child had responded. Just barely, just for a moment. But she had responded to a simple story told by a janitor through soundproof glass, after weeks of not responding to anything the galaxy's best doctors tried. Rachel made a decision right then. She did not care if she got fired. She did not care if they sent her back to Earth. That little girl needed more than machines and treatments. She needed someone to remind her that she was not just a dying patient. She was a child, and children need love to survive. Rachel knew she was breaking at least 5 station rules when she walked into the medical wing during visiting hours instead of working hours. She wore her regular clothes instead of her cleaning uniform, and she carried a small bag that definitely was not approved equipment. The receptionist barely looked up. Visiting hours meant lots of traffic, and one human woman did not stand out among the dozens of alien species coming and going. She made it all the way to the child's room before someone stopped her. Dr. Halvik stepped out of his side office, his 4 arms crossed in what Rachel had learned was his version of annoyance. "You are the cleaning staff," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. My name is Rachel Okonkwo. I wanted to see the patient in room 17. "That is not permitted. You have no medical credentials and no relationship to the patient." Rachel took a breath. She had practiced this speech all morning. I read the reports that were left on the terminals in her room. I know I'm not supposed to access them, but I clean around them every night, and it's hard not to see. The child has cascade failure syndrome. You've tried every treatment available. Dr. Halvik's crystal eyes hardened. Those reports are confidential medical information. I know. I'm sorry. But I also know that my daughter had something similar when she was young. Not the same disease exactly, but the same pattern. She stopped eating, stopped responding to treatment. She was wasting away, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. This is not a human condition. It is a Rayleigh genetic disorder that has no correlation to any Earth illness. Rachel opened her bag. Inside was a worn stuffed animal, a blue elephant with one ear slightly torn. My daughter's doctors said the same thing. They said it was purely physical. But I stopped listening to them and started listening to her. She was scared and alone, and all the medical equipment made it worse. When I brought her favorite toy and started sleeping in her hospital room, she began to recover. "That is anecdotal and scientifically meaningless," Dr. Halvik said, but his voice carried less certainty than his words. "Maybe, but what do you have to lose? You said she has 3 weeks. Your treatments aren't working. Let me sit with her for 1 hour. Just 1 hour. If nothing changes, I'll leave and never come back." They stood in the hallway while medical staff walked past. Dr. Halvik looked at Rachel like she was a puzzle he could not solve. Finally, he turned to his datapad and pulled up a chart. There was a fluctuation in the patient's bioluminescence 4 nights ago at 2300 hours. It lasted 90 seconds and has not repeated. We assumed it was a sensor error. That was when I was talking to her through the glass, Rachel said quietly. I told her a funny story about my daughter. Dr. Halvik went very still. His crystal skin caught the light and threw little rainbows on the walls. "You believe your presence caused a measurable change in her condition. I think she responded to being treated like a person instead of a disease." For a long moment, the doctor said nothing. Then he made a decision that Rachel could see was difficult for him. 1 hour, under full monitoring. If her condition declines even slightly, You will be removed immediately and banned from this section. Relief flooded through Rachel. Thank you. Do not thank me. I'm only allowing this because every alternative has failed. The parents will be notified. Dr. Halvik led her to room 17 and opened the door. The medical pod hummed in the center of the space, surrounded by equipment that Rachel could not begin to understand. The child lay inside, her golden skin so dim it was almost gray. Rachel approached slowly and set her bag on a nearby chair. "Hi there," she said softly. "My name's Rachel. I don't know if you remember me talking to you before, but I'd like to do it properly this time." The child's eyes moved toward her. They were beautiful eyes, even clouded with sickness, a deep amber color that seemed to hold tiny flecks of light. "I brought you something," Rachel said, pulling out the stuffed elephant. "This belonged to my daughter when she was your age. His name is Mr. Trunk, and he's very good at listening to problems. Would you like to hold him?" She held the toy where the child could see it. The medical pod had openings for necessary access. Rachel carefully placed the elephant near the child's hand. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, small fingers reached out and touched the soft fabric. The child's glow brightened just a fraction. Rachel smiled. "There you go. He's a little worn out because Amy loved him so much, but that just means he's extra good at his job." She pulled a chair close to the pod and sat down. Through the transparent wall of the hallway, she could see Dr. Halvik watching the monitors with intense focus. "So," Rachel said, "let me tell you about the time my daughter decided to give Mr. Trunk a bath in the washing machine. She thought he was dirty, which he was, but she didn't know that stuffed animals need to go in a special bag or they get all lumpy. She talked for the full hour, telling stories about Amy, about Earth, about silly things that happened at home. She described parks and playgrounds, birthday parties and holidays. She talked about ice cream flavors and favorite books. The child did not speak, but she listened. Her eyes stayed on Rachel the whole time, and her hand stayed on the elephant. When the hour ended, Dr. Halvik entered the room. "Time is complete," he said. Rachel stood up carefully. "Can I come back tomorrow?" The doctor looked at his datapad. His expression was unreadable. "The patient's cellular degradation rate has slowed by 0.03%. That is within normal variation and likely meaningless." "But it hasn't gotten worse," Rachel said. "No," he admitted. "It has not gotten worse. For the first time in 16 days, the decline has paused." Rachel's heart leaped. "So I can come back?" Dr. Halvik looked at the child, who was still holding the stuffed elephant. Her glow was slightly brighter than when Rachel had arrived. Not much, but enough to register on the sensitive equipment. "1 hour per day," he said finally. "Same conditions. Any decline, and you are removed." Rachel nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She touched the pod gently. "I'll see you tomorrow, sweetheart. Mr. Trunk will keep you company until then." As she left the medical wing, she passed a tall Raelith woman in the hallway. The woman's glow was dim with worry, and she was heading toward room 17. Their eyes met for just a moment, and Rachel saw a mother's desperate hope reflected there. She wanted to say something, to offer comfort, but what could a janitor say to a diplomat whose daughter was dying? So she just nodded respectfully and kept walking. Behind her, she heard the woman's voice, soft and breaking. "My baby spoke today." She asked about the human who tells stories. Rachel stopped walking. Those were the first words the child had spoken in days. She turned around, but the woman had already entered her daughter's room. Dr. Halvik stood in the hallway, staring at his datapad like it had personally betrayed him. He looked up at Rachel with an expression that might have been the beginning of hope, or might have been fear that hope was foolish. Rachel gave him a small smile and headed home. Tomorrow she would bring more stories. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. By the 5th day, Rachel learned that the child's name was Nira. She also learned that Nira loved hearing about animals, especially the ones that did not exist on her home world. So Rachel brought pictures on her datapad and told stories about dogs and cats, horses and rabbits. "This one's my favorite," Rachel said, showing Nira a photo of a golden retriever puppy. "His name was Buddy, and he belonged to our neighbor. Every morning he would wait by our door for Amy to come out and play." Nira's fingers traced the image on the screen. Her glow had strengthened to about 20% of normal, enough that the medical staff had started whispering about unexpected improvements. She still had not spoken directly to Rachel, but she made small sounds of interest and her eyes followed every gesture. "Can you talk, sweetie?" Rachel asked gently. "You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm happy just sitting here with you." Nira's lips moved. The sound that came out was barely a whisper. "Does it hurt?" "Does what hurt, honey?" "Having a pet. When they die." Rachel felt her throat tighten. Of course, that was what Nira would ask. A child who was dying would think about death, even in happy stories. "Buddy lived for 15 years, Rachel said carefully. "That's a long, long time for a dog. When he finally passed, yes, it hurt. Amy cried for days. But you know what she told me? She said she was glad she knew him, that all the happy years were worth the sad ending." Nira thought about this. "I make my parents sad." "Oh, sweetheart, no." Rachel moved closer to the pod. "You don't make them sad. Being sick makes them sad. There's a big difference. They love you so much. They don't come very often." That hit Rachel hard because it was true. She had seen Nira's mother, Lisa, a few times in the hallway, but the visits were brief. The father she had never seen at all. Dr. Halvik mentioned that Raylath culture encouraged emotional distance during medical crises. They believed strong feelings interfered with healing. "They're scared," Rachel said. "Sometimes when people are really scared, they don't know what to do, so they do nothing. But that doesn't mean they don't love you." Nira's hand found Mr. Trunk and pulled him close. "You're not scared." "I am, actually. I'm scared every time I come here that you won't be doing well. But I come anyway because I think being here helps you. And helping you matters more than being scared." That evening, after Rachel's hour ended, she found Lisa waiting in the corridor. The Raylath woman's glow pulsed with nervous energy. "You are the human," Lisa said. "The one who visits my daughter." "Yes, ma'am. My name is Rachel. I wanted to thank you. Nira speaks of you often. She calls you the story lady." Rachel smiled. "She's a wonderful listener. You have a very special daughter." Lisa's glow dimmed. "The doctors say she is improving, but they do not understand why. They run tests constantly, but find no medical explanation. I think it frightens them." "Maybe some things can't be explained with tests," Rachel said carefully. "Maybe sometimes healing comes from connection instead of medicine. My husband believes I should not allow these visits to continue. He says we're giving Nira false hope, that when the improvement stops, the decline will be worse." Rachel's heart sank. "What do you believe?" Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "I believe my daughter smiled yesterday for the first time in 2 months. I believe her light is stronger. I believe she asked for you." She paused. "But I am afraid to hope." "Understand. I felt the same way when Amy was sick. Every good day felt like a trick, like it would be stolen away. But hope isn't about knowing everything will be fine. It's about choosing to believe in possibility even when you're terrified." "You may continue the visits," Lisa said. "Despite my husband's wishes, I will not keep you from her." Over the next 3 days, Nira's improvement became impossible to ignore. Her bioluminescence reached 40%. She started asking questions, expressing preferences, even laughing at Rachel's sillier stories. The medical monitors showed her cellular regeneration had not just slowed, but had started to reverse. Dr. Halvik called an emergency meeting of the medical staff. Rachel was not invited, but she heard about it from a nurse who thought the whole situation was fascinating. The galaxy's top doctors were baffled. Every model they had for cascade failure syndrome said this kind of reversal was impossible. On the 10th day, everything fell apart. Rachel arrived for her usual visit to find the medical pod empty. Panic seized her chest. She ran to the nearest nurse. "Where's Nira? What happened?" "The patient has been moved to the advanced treatment wing," the nurse said. Her father insisted. He brought in specialists from the Raylath homeworld. Rachel found Dr. Halvik in his office, looking more tired than she had ever seen him. "They took her," he said before Rachel could ask. Her father, Ambassador Torin, believes the improvement is temporary. He wants her in a specialized Raylath facility where they can prepare for the final stage. But she's getting better. The numbers prove it. The numbers are anomalous. There is no scientific basis for her improvement. Ambassador Torin believes we are wasting time with unproven methods when we should be making her comfortable. She needs me, Rachel said. She needs someone to keep visiting, to keep talking to her, to remind her she's not just a patient. I agree, Dr. Halvik said quietly, but I have no authority over a parent's decision. Rachel left his office and went straight to the advanced wing. Security stopped her at the door. No ano será isto por sened. I need to see Nira. Please. She's expecting me. The patient's father has left strict instructions. No visitors except immediate family and approved medical staff. Rachel tried to argue, but it was useless. She stood outside those doors for 20 minutes before finally accepting defeat. She went to the viewing gallery above the advanced wing, a place where families could watch procedures from a safe distance. Through the glass, she could see Nira's new room. It was 3 times the size of the old one, filled with equipment that glowed with Rayleigh technology. Nira lay in the center of it all, looking smaller than ever. As Rachel watched, the child's glow began to dim. Slowly at first, then faster. The monitors around her bed started flashing warnings. Medical staff rushed in, adjusting equipment, running scans. Nira had been improving for 9 days straight. Now, 6 hours after being separated from Rachel and placed in this new environment, she was crashing. Rachel pressed her hands against the glass. Nira's head turned slightly, as if she sensed someone watching. Even from this distance, Rachel could see the fear in her eyes. The child thought she was being abandoned. Again, Rachel ran back to Dr. Halvik's office. She did not knock, just burst through the door. She's getting worse. Right now, because she thinks we left her. Dr. Halvik was already pulling up the medical data on his screens. His expression confirmed what Rachel knew. The cellular cascade has resumed. Faster than before. You have to let me see her. You have to convince her father. I have no authority over Ambassador Torin. Then get some. Rachel's voice cracked. That little girl is dying because nobody will listen. Not to me, not to you, not to her. She's dying because everyone is so focused on being right that they forgot to care about what she needs. Dr. Halvik stood up. All 4 of his arms moved in agitation. What she needs is irrelevant if her parent forbids it. What she needs is the only thing that matters, Rachel said. And right now she needs to know that someone still cares about her as a person, not as a problem to solve. They stared at each other across the office. Outside, alarms were starting to sound from the advanced wing. Dr. Halvik made a decision. Come with me. Ambassador Torin stood in the observation room above his daughter's medical pod, his tall frame rigid with control. His glow was steady and cold, the way Rayleigh leaders were trained to be in crisis. Beside him, Lisa trembled with barely contained emotion, her light flickering like a candle in wind. Dr. Halvik entered with Rachel behind him. Torin turned, and his eyes went immediately to Rachel with clear disapproval. The human should not be here. This is a family matter. With respect, Ambassador, Dr. Halvik said, this is a medical matter, and I am the chief physician. I have brought Rachel Okonkwo because her presence may be critical to your daughter's survival. Survival. Torin's voice was sharp. Look at the monitors. My daughter is dying faster than before. Your experimental human approach has failed. Rachel stepped forward, her hands shaking but her voice steady. She's dying faster because she's scared. You moved her to a new room full of strangers and strange equipment, and you took away the one thing that was helping her feel safe. A stuffed toy and stories? That is your medical treatment? No, Rachel said. Connection is my treatment. Helping her feel like she matters as a person, not just as a patient with a condition to fix. Torin's glow hardened. You presume to lecture me about my own daughter? I have consulted with the finest minds across 3-star systems. Rayleigh specialists who have studied this condition for decades. And what have they told you? Rachel asked. That there's no cure? That you should make her comfortable and wait for the end? I'm betting they also told you to maintain emotional distance, to not let your feelings interfere with treatment. Lisa made a small sound of pain. Torin shot her a warning look before turning back to Rachel. Our ways have served us well for thousands of years. Your ways aren't working for Nira, Rachel said bluntly. 9 days ago, she was getting worse every single day. Then I started sitting with her, talking to her, treating her like a child who needed comfort instead of a problem to solve. And she got better. You saw the data. Coincidence. Natural variation in the disease progression. Dr. Halvik spoke up. Ambassador, I initially shared your skepticism, but the statistical probability of that improvement being natural is less than 0.01%. Something changed when Rachel began her visits. And something changed when they stopped, Lisa whispered. Torin, look at her. Really look. Through the glass below, Nira lay motionless. Her glow had faded to almost nothing. The machines around her bed screamed warnings that medical staff struggled to address. But worse than the fading light was the expression on the child's face. She looked lost, abandoned. Rachel moved to the glass. Nira, she called out, knowing the soundproofing would not let her voice through, but unable to stop herself. Nira, I'm here. I didn't leave you. The child did not move. Let me go to her, Rachel pleaded, turning to Torin. Please, just let me sit with her like I did before. If it doesn't help in 1 hour, I'll leave and never ask again. This is emotional manipulation, Torin said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. You cannot prove your presence caused the improvement. You're right, Rachel said. I can't prove it scientifically, but I can tell you what I know as a mother. When my daughter was sick and the doctors had given up, I stayed with her anyway. I held her hand and told her stories and promised I wouldn't leave. And she got better. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was luck. Or maybe love actually matters. Love is not medicine, isn't it? Rachel's voice rose with passion. Every study ever done on human children shows that babies who aren't held enough fail to thrive, even with perfect nutrition. That sick kids with family support recover faster than those without it. That hope and connection trigger real biological responses in the body. You're so advanced technologically that you forgot the most basic truth. People need people. Children need to be loved. And your daughter is down there dying because nobody is showing her that she's loved enough to fight for. The room fell silent except for the distant sound of alarms. Torin stared at Rachel with an expression that might have been anger or might have been something breaking inside him. Lisa touched her husband's arm. I want to go to her, she said quietly. I've been too afraid. But Rachel is right. Our daughter is alone, and she should not be. I am her mother. I should be with her. The doctor said emotional involvement could destabilize her further, Torin said, but the words sounded hollow now. The doctors said many things, Lisa replied. All of them led to this moment. Our daughter is dying despite their knowledge. Perhaps it is time to try something they do not understand. Dr. Halvik pulled up a chart on his datapad. Ambassador, the cellular cascade has accelerated to critical levels in the past hour. At this rate, Nira has less than 8 hours before total system failure. Every conventional treatment has not only failed, but made things worse. We have nothing left to lose by trying Rachel's approach. Torin looked down at his daughter. For the first time, Rachel saw his controlled glow waver. Beneath the ambassador's rigid exterior was a father watching his child slip away. What would you do? He asked Rachel. Specifically, if I allow this, I would go down there and tell her I'm sorry I left. I would sit beside her and hold her hand if the medical equipment allows it. I would talk to her about anything and everything until she knows she's not alone. And I would ask you and Lisa to do the same. Us. Torin looked startled. She needs her parents most of all, Rachel said gently. Not doctors, not technology. You, your wife, the people who created her and love her. She needs to feel that love, not just know it exists somewhere in theory. Lisa was already moving toward the door. I'm going to my daughter. You may join me or not, Torin, but I will not stand here one more moment while she suffers alone. Torin watched his wife leave. His glow flickered rapidly, a sign of intense internal conflict. Then he looked at Rachel. If this fails, if she dies while you are there, the responsibility will haunt you forever. If I don't try, Rachel said, that will haunt me worse. He nodded slowly. 1 hour. But I'm coming with you. If my daughter is to die, I will not let her die among strangers, even well-meaning ones. They rushed down to the medical wing together. Rachel, Lisa, Torin, and Dr. Halvik. The medical staff tried to stop them, citing contamination protocols and proper procedures, but Torin overrode everything with his authority. The door to Nira's room opened. The equipment noise was overwhelming, alarms and beeps creating a wall of sound that felt more like chaos than care. Nira lay in the center of it all, her eyes closed, her glow barely visible. Rachel approached the pod carefully. Nira? Sweetheart, it's Rachel. I'm so sorry I couldn't come see you earlier. But I'm here now and I'm not leaving. Nothing. No response. Lisa came to the other side of the pod, tears streaming down her face. Baby, it's Mama. I'm here too. I'm sorry I was so scared. I should have been with you all along. Still nothing. Torin stood at the foot of the pod, his composed demeanor finally cracking. Nira, my light, my daughter. Please, come back to us. Rachel reached through the pod's access port and found Nira's small hand. It was cold and still. She wrapped both of her hands around it and started talking. Remember the story about Buddy the dog? Well, I never told you about the time he learned to open doors. Rachel talked for 3 hours straight. She told every story she could remember about Earth, about Amy, about funny moments and sad ones and ordinary days that suddenly seemed precious. Lisa held Nira's other hand and added her own memories of when her daughter was small, speaking in a musical Raelith language that made the lights in the room flicker in response. Torin sat at the foot of the medical pod, his hands resting on his daughter's feet through the access port. He said little, but his presence filled the room in a way that felt important. Around the 2-hour mark, something changed. Nira's fingers twitched, just barely, just enough that Rachel felt it. She kept talking, not daring to hope, but squeezing the small hand gently to let Nira know she felt it too. At hour 3, Nira's eyes opened. They were cloudy and unfocused at first, moving slowly around the room until they found Rachel's face. The child's lips moved, forming words too quiet to hear over the medical equipment. Rachel leaned closer. "What is it, sweetheart?" "You came back," Nira whispered. Rachel felt tears running down her face. "Of course I came back. I promised I wouldn't leave you, remember?" Nira's eyes shifted to her mother. "Mama." Lisa sobbed openly now, her glow pulsing with emotion that would have horrified her people's cultural standards. "Yes, baby. Mama's here. I'm so sorry I wasn't here before. I was afraid, but I'm not afraid anymore." Papa too. Torin moved so Nira could see him. His voice was thick with feeling. "Papa too, little light. I have been a fool. Forgive me." Over the next week, Nira's improvement was steady and measurable. Her bioluminescence strengthened day by day. The cellular cascade that had been killing her slowed, stopped, then reversed. Dr. Halvik ran test after test, trying to understand the mechanism, but the data defied every model. What was measurable was the change in her environment. Rachel came every day for 2 hours. Lisa practically moved into the medical room, sleeping in a chair beside her daughter's pod. Even Torin adjusted his schedule to spend mornings with Nira before his diplomatic duties. But the bigger change happened when word spread through the station. 3 other families with terminally ill children heard about Nira's improvement. They came to Dr. Halvik demanding the same treatment. The doctor called Rachel to his office looking overwhelmed. "There are 3 more children," he said. "Different species, different conditions, but all terminal cases. The families want you to visit their children too." Rachel sat down heavily. "I'm not a doctor. I can't cure anyone. You did something we could not do for Nira. Whether it was psychological, emotional, or some mechanism we don't understand, it worked. It worked because I had time, because I could focus on one child. How am I supposed to help 4 kids at once? I still have to work. I still have bills to pay." Dr. Halvik folded his hands on his desk. "What if you did not have to work? What if this became your work? I clean things. I don't have any credentials or training. You have something more important. You understand that healing is not just about fixing bodies. It is about treating the whole person." He paused. "I'm proposing we create a new position, Pediatric Family Support Specialist. The pay would be significant." Rachel thought about it for a long moment. "I can try, but I can't promise the same results. Every child is different." "I know, but doing nothing guarantees they die. Trying your approach at least offers hope." The first child Rachel visited was a young Centaurian named Brix. He had a degenerative nerve condition that left him in constant pain. The medical staff kept him sedated most of the time because nothing else helped. Rachel sat beside his bed and started talking. She told him about Earth's oceans, about creatures that lived in water and never saw land. Brix was from a desert world and found the concept fascinating. Within days, he asked for the sedation to be reduced so he could hear more stories. The second child was Dyra, a small girl from a species Rachel had never encountered before. She had been abandoned by her parents because her illness was considered shameful in her culture. Rachel brought her picture books and taught her simple songs. Dyra's condition was still terminal, but she smiled for the first time in months. The third was a teenager named Ravik who had been in treatment so long he had forgotten what life was like outside a medical facility. Rachel convinced Dr. Halvik to let him use a virtual reality system to experience simulated environments. For the first time in years, Ravik talked about having a future. Not all of them survived. Dyra died peacefully 3 weeks after Rachel started visiting her, but she died holding Rachel's hand and listening to a story about butterflies. Her last words were thank you. That death hit Rachel hard. She sat in the station's small chapel for hours afterward, crying for a child who was not her own, but who had mattered. Lisa found her there. The Raelith woman sat beside her in silence for a while before speaking. Dyra's caretakers sent me a message. They said she was happy at the end, that she felt loved. You gave her that gift. I wanted to save her, Rachel said. You did save her, not from death, but from dying alone and afraid. That is its own kind of miracle. 2 months after Nira's recovery began, the child was declared in full remission. The cascade failure syndrome had completely reversed, something that had never happened in recorded medical history. Dr. Halvik published a paper about the case, carefully noting that the mechanism remained unclear, but that family presence and emotional support appeared to be critical factors. The paper caused chaos in the medical community. Half the galaxy's doctors dismissed it as pseudoscience. The other half wanted to know more. Horizon's Edge started receiving requests from other medical stations asking for consultation on pediatric care protocols. Rachel trained a team of volunteers, teaching them what she knew about sitting with sick children, about listening more than talking, about treating patients as people first and cases second. She called it the Parent Presence Program. Torin, using his diplomatic influence, proposed new medical station regulations across the galaxy, mandated family access to pediatric patients, required training in emotional support for medical staff, funding for family counselors and support specialists. Some cultures resisted. Some embraced it immediately. But slowly, change began to happen. Children's wards started to look different. Parents were encouraged to stay, not asked to leave. Medical equipment was designed to allow for physical contact, not prevent it. Rachel kept working with individual children, but she also knew this could not be her forever. She had been away from Amy for almost a year. Her daughter was growing up without her, and no amount of video calls could replace being there. One evening, she sat with Nira in the recreation room. The child was well enough now to leave the medical wing for supervised visits. They were working on a puzzle together, a picture of Earth's Grand Canyon. Will you leave soon? Nira asked quietly. Rachel had been dreading this question. I need to go home eventually. My daughter misses me. I will miss you too. I know, sweetheart. But you have your parents now. Really have them. They're not afraid anymore. Nira placed a puzzle piece carefully. You taught them how to be with me. I just reminded them of what they already knew. They love you. They always did. They just needed to remember that love is something you do, not just something you feel. Nira looked up at her with those amber eyes. Will you visit sometimes? As often as I can, Rachel promised. And you can send me messages anytime you want. I'll tell you all about Earth, and you can tell me about your adventures here. The child seemed satisfied with that. They worked on the puzzle in comfortable silence, and Rachel thought about the strange path her life had taken. She came to this station as a janitor looking for decent pay. She was leaving as someone who had changed the way an entire galaxy thought about healing. The transport ship hummed quietly as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Rachel pressed her face to the window, watching familiar blue skies and white clouds replace the darkness of space. She had been gone for 14 months. long enough that everything looked both exactly the same and completely different. Her sister met her at the landing port with Amy. Rachel barely recognized her daughter. The girl had grown 3 inches, her face had lost its childhood roundness, and she wore her hair in a new style. But when Amy saw her mother, she ran forward with the same enthusiasm she had always had. They held each other for a long time in the middle of the busy port while travelers moved around them. Rachel breathed in the smell of her daughter's hair and felt something settle in her chest that had been unsettled for over a year. "I missed you so much," Amy said into her shoulder. "I missed you too, baby." Every single day, they went home to the small apartment that Rachel had left behind. It looked smaller than she remembered, but it was home. That night, after Amy went to bed, Rachel sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. Her data pad chimed. A message from Dr. Halvik. She opened it to find a report on Nira's latest checkup. Full remission maintained. No sign of cellular degradation. The child was thriving. Attached to the medical report was a personal note. Thought you would want to know that we have successfully implemented the Parent Presence Program in 47 medical facilities across 12 systems. Pediatric recovery rates have improved by an average of 23%. We are seeing positive results even in cases that are not terminal, simply children who are frightened or struggling with treatment. You have started something important, Rachel. Thank you. More messages followed over the next few days. Lisa sent photos of Nira at a park, playing with other children. The child's bioluminescence was bright and healthy, her smile wide. "She asks about you constantly," Lisa wrote. "She wants to visit Earth someday to see the animals you told her about." Torin sent a formal message informing her that the Raelith government had established a medical scholarship in her name. Human students interested in pediatric care would receive full funding to study at their most prestigious institutions. "Your people understand something about healing that we had forgotten," he wrote. "We wish to learn from you." Even Daira's caretakers reached out. They had established a memorial garden at the station in her honor, and they credited Rachel with giving the child peace in her final days. They asked permission to name it the Rachel Okonkwo Remembrance Garden. Rachel cried when she gave her approval. Weeks passed. Rachel found work at a local hospital as a patient advocate, helping families navigate the difficult waters of serious illness. The pay was a fraction of what she had earned at Horizon's Edge, but she could be home every night with Amy. That mattered more than money. One evening, 3 months after her return, she received a video call request from an unfamiliar source. When she answered, she saw a conference room filled with faces from a dozen different species. At the center sat a distinguished-looking human woman. "Ms. Okonkwo, my name is Dr. Patricia Williams. I'm the director of the Interstellar Medical Council. We've been reviewing the work you did at Horizon's Edge." Rachel's heart started beating faster. "I'm not in trouble, am I? I know I wasn't technically qualified for the position." Dr. Williams smiled. "Quite the opposite. We want to expand your program. We're proposing a new branch of pediatric medicine that focuses on holistic care, including family integration and emotional support. We need someone to lead the training initiative." "I'm not a doctor," Rachel said automatically. "No, but you're something more important. You're someone who understands that children are not just small adults or complex biological systems. They're people who need love and security to heal. That's what we need to teach our medical professionals across the galaxy." The position would require travel, Dr. Williams explained. Visiting different medical stations, training staff, developing protocols. But Rachel could work remotely much of the time, and the schedule would be flexible enough for her to be home with Amy regularly. Rachel looked at her daughter, who was doing homework at the kitchen table. Amy glanced up and smiled at her. That smile was worth more than any position or any amount of money. "Can I think about it?" Rachel asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." After the call ended, Rachel sat with Amy and told her about the offer. Her daughter listened carefully, her expression serious in the way that teenagers got when they were trying to seem mature. "You should do it," Amy said finally. "It would mean traveling sometimes, being away from home. Mom, you helped save kids' lives. That's important. I'm not a little girl anymore." "I understand." Rachel pulled her daughter into a hug. "When did you get so grown up?" When you were gone, I had a lot of time to think about what you were doing and why it mattered. I'm proud of you, Mom. I want you to keep helping people." 2 weeks later, Rachel accepted the position. She spent the next year developing training programs, writing guidelines, and visiting medical facilities across human space and beyond. She taught doctors and nurses, but more importantly, she taught parents. She taught them that sitting with their children mattered, that telling stories and holding hands and being present were not frivolous activities, but essential parts of healing. That love was not separate from medicine, but a crucial component of it. Some medical professionals resisted. They wanted quantifiable data, controlled studies, peer-reviewed papers. Rachel gave them what she could, working with researchers who were beginning to document the biological effects of emotional support. Stress hormones decreased. Immune function improved. Recovery times shortened. But she also told them about Nira, about Daira, about Brix and Ravik, and all the other children she had sat with. She told them that sometimes the most important data could not be captured in numbers. Sometimes you had to trust that connection mattered, that presence healed, that love was its own kind of medicine. 5 years after she first pushed her cleaning cart down that corridor at Horizon's edge, Rachel returned to the station for a ceremony. The medical wing had been renamed in her honor. Dozens of families whose children had been helped by the Parent Presence program had contributed to a memorial wall with thousands of names. Nira was there, now almost a teenager herself. She ran to Rachel and hugged her tightly. "I never forgot you," she said. "Everything I am is because you reminded everyone that I was worth saving." "You were always worth saving," Rachel said. "I just help people see it." Dr. Halvik was there too, older now, but still precise in his movements. "You proved me wrong," he said simply. "I thought medicine was about knowledge and technology. You taught me it is about caring for the whole person. That is a lesson I will never forget." That night, Rachel stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Amy was with her, 17 now, and talking about studying medicine herself. Somewhere out there, children were being held by their parents during treatments. Somewhere out there, doctors were taking time to learn their patients' favorite stories. Somewhere out there, the galaxy had remembered something it had forgotten. That healing required more than skill and technology. It required presence. It required connection. It required love. Rachel had not cured anyone. She had not invented new treatments or made groundbreaking discoveries. She had simply shown up, sat down, and reminded people that children needed to be loved in order to thrive. Sometimes the greatest medicine was the simplest. Sometimes the greatest doctors were just mothers who refused to give up. And sometimes, when the entire galaxy's knowledge failed, love was enough to succeed.